Welcome, everyone, to the NoDQ.com live recap of Monday Night Raw for February 17th, 2025. We had Elimination Chamber qualifying matches on this show. Shout out to everybody watching, whether it's live or on demand. I very much appreciate your viewership and support. Let's get to Monday Night Raw. We had footage shown of the wrestlers arriving as usual. AJ Styles, though, arrived in a race car. This week's Raw was in Charlotte, North Carolina. Another packed arena for this show. We had Sami Zayn come into the ring. He had a very serious demeanor. Of course, the last time we saw him, he had been brutally attacked by Kevin Owens with the package pile driver. He talked about how it was a rough couple of weeks from him, or a rough couple of weeks for him, and he was rehabbing. He talked about the history between himself and Kevin Owens, how they've been like the two most connected wrestlers in the business, not just WWE, but independent wrestling. He said that they've had their ups and downs, but what Owens did was not going to be forgiven this time. The reason being is that Owens outright tried to end his career, but he didn't get the job done. And now Zayn said he was ready. He had enough left in the tank for a fight. But Adam Pearce, the Raw general manager, came out there and he said Zayn was not cleared. And because of that, the answer was no for the rematch, or for the match, I should say. Sami Zayn, he talked his way into it. He said he wasn't leaving the ring until he got his match. And then Pearce finally said he can't sanction a match. Even if he did, it could be Sami Zayn's last match. And the crowd was chanting, "Let them fight." Zayn said that Pearce can't stop it. Pearce can't stop what Zayn is going to do to Kevin Owens. Told him to give him the damn match. And Pearce finally agreed. So it will take place, not at WrestleMania, but it will take place at Elimination Chamber in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens in an unsanctioned match. Shout out to Michael, who sent in a $2 super chat. Thank you for that, Michael. Says, this episode of Monday Night Raw brought to you by Botchamania. Yes, there were quite a few botches on this show, but this opening segment was very good. They set up the match. It should be a barn burner, as they say. I don't know if it's going to be the main event of Elimination Chamber. I feel like that will be one of the Chamber matches, but it's a nice match for Chamber. I'm not sure where this leads to WrestleMania for these guys. Is Randy Orton coming back and feuding with Kevin Owens? Is Sami Zayn going to feud with Karrion Kross? I hate to say it for Sami Zayn, but Karrion Kross feels like a downgrade for WrestleMania. I don't know if that's what's going to happen here. I suppose we'll see. Should be a hell of a match, though. And both guys did a good job in this promo segment. We had Judgment Day backstage, and there had been footage shown of Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair with Nick Aldis from SmackDown. Now they suspect Liv Morgan and Raquel were behind the attack. Liv Morgan said she's not worried about that. She knows Dominic Mysterio will beat AJ Styles. And then Dominic vented about Finn Balor. And of course, Finn Balor walked into the room. They were talking about a new member, and Balor said, no new members. But of course, I feel like this is all leading to something, some kind of significant change with the Judgment Day is coming. We had footage shown of iShowSpeed's stream where he was talking about getting speared by Braun Breaker at the Royal Rumble Premium Live event. And then we had our first match of the evening, Dominic versus AJ Styles. Standard Dominic match where you had the face, AJ Styles, dominating. Then you had the outside interference, Carlito getting on the apron, and that allowed Carlito, or not Dominic, Carlito got on the apron. Carlito was interfering, giving Dominic the upper hand. And then eventually, after Dominic busted out his big moves, the 619, and then he went for the frog splash, but Styles avoided it. Carlito tried to interfere again, but this time he got knocked off the apron. Dominic attempted to roll up Styles, but Styles kicked out, and then Styles picked up the win with the Styles Clash. And then after the match was over, Braun Breaker showed up. He tried to spear AJ Styles, but ended up spearing Dominic instead. And then Breaker got sent out of the ring. Breaker was pissed off. He ripped off his t-shirt. He threw it at AJ Styles, and Styles, with the smoothest catch ever, just grabbed the shirt as he was staring a hole in Braun Breaker, looking like a total badass. And I agree. This was the best moment of the entire Raw episode. I mean, this was great. AJ Styles was fantastic here. And I liked this angle. Like this has potential to be a hot feud for the IC title. Braun Breaker versus AJ Styles. And as Matthew says, Mr. Perfect would have been proud of that catch. Absolutely. Good segment here. We had Dakota Kai having some words with Ivy Nile before their match. They went out there, had a good match, but unfortunately the crowd wasn't too much into it. Lyra Valkyria was watching. They said this was a #1 contenders match for the women's IC title. Ivy Nile was trying to target the knee, and she power bombed Dakota out of the corner, put on the ankle lock, but Dakota got to the rope. Dakota made her come back, but then Ivy reapplied the ankle lock. However, Ivy got sent to the apron, and then Dakota got her back in the ring and beat her with her finisher, the GTK. And it was officially confirmed that next week, Dakota Kai will get her rematch against Lyra Valkyria for the women's IC title. Dakota's music is what it is. I don't care. It's another lousy Def Rebel song. Yeah, wasn't feeling it. We then had Gunther in the crowd, and he mocked Jey Uso by coming out down to the ring through the crowd like Jey always does. And he was cutting this promo, ripping into the fans, talking about how it stunk in the crowd. He might not be wrong on that one. And then he said he's gonna outclass Jey at WrestleMania, and said the fans are sending Jey to an early grave. Jey's blood will be on their hands. Crowd was chanting for Jey. And then he went over and questioned the announcers, wanted to know their thoughts on who would win at WrestleMania. And Pat McAfee said that he hopes Jey Uso will defeat Gunther at WrestleMania. Gunther took off his jacket, acted like he was going to get into a fight with Pat McAfee. And then Jey Uso shows up. He comes down to the ring, and then, of course, the referees are there, and they start brawling. And it's another pull apart brawl. Here we go. I mean, I am not shocked by this whatsoever. They got 8 weeks of TV time to kill here before WrestleMania. And then they did the usual deal. You know, they're each in a corner, and then Jey Uso breaks out through the security and gets his hands on Gunther, and then Gunther retreats. Yeah, I mean, I'm disappointed that they're doing the pull apart brawl yet again, but not entirely shocked by it. Like I said, it's a guaranteed crowd pop every time WWE does it or AEW does it. It always gets a pop, but I think they're so overdone. Lazy writing. I'm just saying, I'm not a fan of these segments when they're overdone. Like, I think a pull apart brawl is cool if you do it like twice a year, but if you do it every single week, I think it really loses its luster. But you know what? The crowd eats it up. You know, every week if somebody goes through a table, the crowd in the arena, they're happy. But it gets boring. If a guy goes through a table every week, it's not cool anymore. Like, I remember back in my day, I sound like an old person now, but back in my day, they put somebody through a table like maybe at the pay-per-views. Maybe. But then it started becoming every week or every other week. And it loses its impact after a while, as far as I'm concerned. There's definitely times where it's too much, and sometimes less is more. And what are you going to do now? You got 7 weeks left. Are you going to do another pull-apart brawl? Are you going to do a contract signing? Are we going to have a contract signing and then a face-off? And then are they going to do – maybe they'll do that gimmick where Gunther has to pick an opponent for Jey Uso and Jey Uso has to pick an opponent for Gunther. Like, what's every single cliche angle that they could do up to WrestleMania for this match? I'm just wondering what they're going to do. How do they keep it interesting with 7 weeks to go? But yeah, not my favorite segment, just to sum this up. We had a backstage interview with Liv Morgan and Raquel, and they didn't really give much information about whether or not they attacked Jade Cargill. They wouldn't really confirm or deny it. And then we had Penta versus Pete Dunne. Another good match here. Pete Dunne, of course, doing the joint manipulation, taking off Penta's gloves. And then Ludwig Kaiser showed up. And Penta started to make a comeback after the break, hit the Mexican Destroyer, but then Kaiser got on the apron. Dunne took advantage, but then he got thrown into Kaiser. And then Penta picked up the win with the Penta driver. Penta's over, man. I mean, so far they've not screwed him up. And there were a lot of Penta signs in the crowd. He's definitely got some momentum going. And then after the match, Pete Dunne and Kaiser, they were not happy with each other. They started fighting, and then Penta took out both of them with a dive. So Penta getting the upper hand on them. Doesn't look like a tag match just yet, so maybe they're going to do a triple threat with these guys next, and we'll see if Rey Fenix can get out of his deal. We had Jey Uso backstage cutting a promo talking about how people were still doubting him and he's going to prove them wrong at WrestleMania. And then we had a Roxanne Perez video package. War Raiders cut a video promo, talked about the Creeds. I guess we'll see a rematch with them in the near future. And then we had Roxanne Perez versus Raquel in an Elimination Chamber qualifying match. Lillian Garcia, who was filling in this week on commentary, usually she's on SmackDown, she botched. Going back to that earlier super chat, Lillian Garcia called her Roxanne Perez. Whoops. I guess Lillian didn't see the Titantron that says Roxanne Perez, but hey, Happens to the best of us. A good match, but again, not a lot of crowd heat for this one. It's like they didn't really know who Roxanne was. But it was a good match. It was solid. It was competitive, although I feel like Roxanne did get in most of the offense for this one, just overpowering Roxanne, doing some of her signature moves, swinging her around, and then hit her with the fallaway slam. And then she went for the Tejana bomb, but Roxanne escaped. And then Raquel charged at her, but missed and hit the ring post. And then after the commercial break, it went back and forth. And then Raquel gained the upper hand. But then we had the interference from Bianca Belair and Naomi. They went out there, they attacked Liv Morgan, and that allowed Roxanne to pick up the win with the Pop Rocks, defeating Raquel. And after the match was over, Bianca and Naomi continued their attack on Liv, but Raquel was able to pull Liv to safety. And then it was confirmed that there will be a match, a tag match with these teams on next week's Raw. Roxanne is the final member of the Elimination Chamber match. I guess maybe next week we'll get this reveal as to who the attacker was. I mean, they've been teasing it and teasing it. I thought maybe they would this week, but I guess we'll see next week. Shout out to the This Guy Experience. Thank you for the $2 super chat. And this guy is going to be on the No DQ review coming up, so tune in for that. This guy says, my daughter wanted to stay up later to watch Penta. Well, there you go. Penta definitely has his following, and the fans were chanting for him in his match. You could hear the kids chanting for him. He's got a bright future ahead of him. I think he's going to be a pretty big deal. Don't think he's going to win the world title, big deal, but I think he's going to have a nice solid run in WWE. It's looking like he made the right call to make the jump. We had Karrion Kross backstage cutting a promo, and he called Jey Uso and Sami Zayn delusional as far as their hopes coming up for Elimination Chamber and WrestleMania, respectively. And Kross said that Zayn can still turn things around. I really think that Kross's promo that he cut on Twitter needed to be on Raw. Like, that was great. To me, that shows a new side to his character that we really haven't seen on WWE television. Like I said, Karrion Kross versus Zayn at WrestleMania feels like a bit of a step down for Zayn, with all due respect to Kross. We had an Io Sky video package, and we had the subtitles. Basically, she talked about Rhea Ripley, how they had their history in NXT, and she vowed to be victorious in their upcoming title match. Rhea Ripley was not on the show. Rhea Ripley in Australia, celebrating her, I guess, belated honeymoon with Buddy Matthews. Rhea Ripley was in Australia to support Buddy for the AEW Grand Slam event. They got married last year, and I guess they finally got a chance to have their honeymoon. And that's why this women's title match is taking place next week or 2 weeks, whenever it is. We had footage shown of the New Day attacking Rey Mysterio after Raw went off the air last week. Xavier and Kofi Kingston were cutting this promo, getting a lot of boos like they have been. I will say this, though. I feel like this promo dragged on for quite a bit. They were ripping into Rey Mysterio, saying how he was sucking the life out of all the new luchadors in WWE. Kofi said he's had more title wins than Mysterio. He never left the company, and said what happened to Rey could have ended up a lot worse for him. And then the LWO came out there and Dragon Lee talked on the mic and said what New Day did was unforgivable. New Day sucks. They got in the ring, they had a brawl, and New Day fled. So it was a standard segment here to build up a feud with these guys. I just think it went on maybe a little bit too long. We had Bianca Belair and Naomi cutting a promo to hype up the match with Liv and Raquel. Said that Raquel and Liv will be counting their days. And then we had our main event of the show, Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor. Thankfully, Finn Balor had his old music back. And not his old music, but the music he had before the Royal Rumble. Man, that song was just terrible. Thankfully, somebody had some sense and decided, yeah, we're not using that. Good match here. Predictable, but good match. Back and forth. And you had Balor jumping Rollins right when the match started. And Balor hit the pedigree right off the bat, using Rollins' pedigree, which Rollins was using as a tribute to Triple H. Rollins was able to avoid the coup de grace, and then Rollins targeted Balor's leg, and then they were on the outside of the ring. Rollins went for the stomp on the steel steps, but missed, and then he was dropped ribs first onto the steps. And then after the commercial break, Balor had the upper hand for a while. Something that was interesting, the crowd started waving their cell phone lights, and we got the fireflies. But they were chanting for Rollins, singing his song, and Rollins got back into it, hit the buckle bomb, went up top for the frog splash, but Balor got his knees up, and then they traded shots, couple near falls here. Balor hit the coup de grace to the bad ribs, but Rollins was able to kick out, and then Balor applied the crossface. Rollins slipped out of it, and then Rollins picked up the win with the curb stomp, 1, 2, 3, to secure the final spot in the match at Elimination Chamber. And at some point here, the referee screwed up. There was a botch with the referee, but the match was good. Like I said, predictable. Rollins winning. Although I was thinking, could Roman Reigns show up here, but he did not. Balor lost again. No surprise. Rollins advances. Really, I think Rollins should win it. At this point, I think Rollins should win the Chamber, and then Roman Reigns comes out and says he got screwed out of his opportunity. So a singles match is made, but then CM Punk cashes in his favor. Remember the favor. Triple threat at WrestleMania. Night 1 main event. Punk gets his main event. Roman gets main event spot. And then the winner of that faces Cody on night 2. That's what I would do at this point. No cliffhanger at the end. All in all, I thought Raw was all right. I felt like this was a little bit weaker than last week, and I thought last week was the not a bad Raw, but the lowest Raw of the Netflix era. So I think this was a little bit of a step down. Not a bad show, but I do think like this was a very average show and a skippable one. Like there really wasn't anything that I felt was particularly memorable. It was mainly by the numbers, by the book. I give it a 5 out of 10. 5 out of 10 points. I had to go a point down because of the pull-apart brawl. And just not too much going on here. You know, no CM Punk on the show, no John Cena, no Roman Reigns, no Rhea Ripley. You know, there was a bit of a lack of star power on the show. No big angles. You know, they got the Elimination Chamber qualifiers to fill the time. And then you got a few teases of some potential storylines. It was decent, but nothing too spectacular. 5 out of 10. Average. That's it for the Raw recap. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you all so much for watching. I do appreciate it. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up on YouTube. Stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the very latest wrestling news and rumors. We got a No DQ review coming up this week, Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. Tune in for that. Say yes to NoDQ.com, and I will see you all next time.